Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome to this wonderful Thirsty Thursday. I am Prophet and teacher Melissa DeCristoforo, and I am super excited about tonight because we are going back to the beginning. And before you say, oh, I've already heard everything about Genesis and there ain't nothing new, I already know all of it, I challenge you to look at this book in a way that you never have before. And I really want to look at it in a way that I never have before. I want us to look at it as if we've never studied this book at all. And it's often been said that when you start to read a book, the best place to start is at the beginning. And the Bible is no different. But unlike a lot of other books where you kind of want to see what happens at the end and you jump to the last chapter, if you try to do that with the Bible, you may end up a bit confused. So that's why it's important to start at the beginning. Now, a lot of people, unfortunately, tend to get sometimes turned off by the book of Genesis because they find the language to be antiquated and a little stiff, and they're thrown off by it. But then still others find it difficult because a lot of the things that we learned in Sunday school, a lot of the Bible stories, Noah's Ark and the story of Isaac and Rebecca and Abraham and Sarah and all of these stories that we learned in our childhood, we tend to keep them in a childish and infantile concept. We have these, what we call kind of security blanket, teddy bear theology, that we want to hold on to those childish ideals. But the book of Genesis is a book that has so much depth, so much incredible just knowledge in it that we need to take those childish concepts that we had. And I don't want to say completely throw them out the window, but begin to look at them through our adult eyes. And we don't want to continue to impose those childish and infantile concepts on the book of Genesis because there's so much more to it. And it's one of these books that we need to just be able to look at in a whole new viewpoint. But others are prejudiced to the book of Genesis because of their education. They think that it's got such primitive and infantile concepts in it that they can't really get anything out of it, especially these first couple of chapters of Genesis. They look at it with a bit of disdain and distaste. They don't really look at it as a book that really has knowledge and concepts in it that are scientifically accurate. And as we begin to look at this, we're not going to delve into the science a little too much, but we're going to touch on it a little bit. Because even though the Bible is not a book of science, it is scientifically accurate. And I have done so much study in this book. There's so much. I can't even express how excited I am. So we're going to start this. And like I said, I want us to look at what it says, but more importantly, what it doesn't say. Because so many times we read things into this book that are not there. And I want us to really get a clear head and a clear heart as we begin to jump into this exciting book. Because to understand how we got where we are, we need to understand how it all began. How it all began. And the Bible, and in Genesis 1, verse 1, it answers 4 fundamental questions of life. 4 fundamental questions. The first one is, what is all of this? As humans, we are created with this insatiable curiosity. And if you look at babies, when they begin to explore their world, they're curious about everything. They want to know about everything, everything that surrounds them. And as we grow older, that curiosity doesn't die. It grows and it changes, but we're curious about the world around us. We want to know, what is all of this? The sky, the sea, the earth, the plants, the animals. And we wonder about these things. And then the next thing is that, how did it all begin? How did all of this around us begin? Did it have a beginning? Yes, it did. And the Bible clearly states in the first 10 words, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Those 10 simple words are so profound that there's no other book, religious book, or any other book that so concisely describes from the beginning. And we have to look at this book very carefully. And we're going to discover that the God of Genesis is the same God who's in the New Testament. He's the same God from the beginning. He's the same God of love and mercy and grace in Genesis that he is all the way through the Bible. And through his creative power, he begins to show his love for this earth and the creation and the creatures, and ultimately for us that he puts on the earth. So, I mean, I want to lay some groundwork, and we're probably not going to get past verse 1 tonight, because verse 1, there's so much depth in this verse that I think is a great place to get a good foundation laid, because in Psalms it says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? If you haven't got a good foundation for your beliefs, then you have nothing to build on. So we need to build this foundation, because in the beginning, God, from the beginning. Now, the next question is, when did it all start? Obviously, it had started at the beginning. Everything has to have a beginning. And it's hard to think in our human minds about a time when everything around, there was nothing, absolute nothingness. There wasn't all this confusion. There wasn't anything. Just complete silence. and there was God. God was from eternity past to eternity future. And before anything that we can conceive in our human minds was even around, there was God. And in the darkness and the blackness of nothingness, God began to create the heavens and the earth. And so with that, let's move into this. And I hope that you are just as excited as I am. And if you're out there, let me know, give me some hearts, give me some comments, and just, give me some feedback, because I want to know what you think about this series. And if you think that this is something, if you like it, if you don't like it, I want to know, because the first 10 words of the Bible, 7 in Hebrew, have been called some of the most profound statements that have ever been made in the hearing of men. And they are. The Bible is so incredible because it can convey ideas to the most simplest mind, but yet challenge the most educated and advanced scientists and scholars. It's amazing that this book can reach people at every level, that even if you have no education at all, you can understand this simple first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, before anything, there was God. And he created the heavens and the earth. Just that verse. And I love also in John 1:1, which is a bit of a parallel. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh. In the beginning was the Word. How did God create the heavens and the earth? He spoke it into existence. And we're going to get more deeply into that as we begin to move through this series. We're going to really get into the idea of the spoken word having creative power. And each of us began life as babies. I mean, obviously. But as we begin to, as I said earlier, as we begin to grow older, we begin to become curious. And that curiosity is innately created in us, because God created this world for us. And that's something else that we're going to be delving into a bit more. But the beginning of science, of true science, is curiosity. It's a desire to know about the world around us. And I cannot believe that you can be, if you're a person out there and you're a person of science, I want you to think about this. You cannot truly appreciate the things that are around you unless you begin to love and appreciate the creator of them. God is not against science. God is not against science, but yet the Bible is not created, is not written for scientific purposes. It's written for our spiritual well-being. It's written to help us not to learn about the heavens, but how to get to heaven. It's written for that deep man, that spiritual man that hungers to know the God who created us and everything around us. It fills that void that every human being has, that hole that is in all of us, that we want to know, do we have purpose? And the only way that we can understand our purpose is to know the God of the Bible from the beginning. And we have to ask, how did it begin? And this is the primary question that is the beginning of scientific knowledge. And then, when did it begin? Now, I love watching shows about the universe and different things. And I have to say that I agree and don't agree with some of it. And, that's a lot of things that we can, get into. But they believe that there was a big bang. I just, everything in the universe, everything that we see was compressed into this area that was so small. And then it split. And when it did, it created a sound in the universe. Now, I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened. And I don't want to get into an argument with anyone because none of us were there when the universe began. There's a lot of speculation and there's a lot of scientific proof, and there's also scientific speculation on things. But one thing's for sure, that at that beginning point was God. He was there at that very beginning point. And the first two classifications of science is the heavenly realm and the earthly realm. What do we see in the heavens? The sky, the stars, the planets, the galaxies, the amazing vastness of space. And then the earth, the plants, the animals, the mountains, the seas, and everything in them, the insects, the fish, everything. So we have those two divisions of the heavens and the earth. And the Bible communicates to people with just basic understanding, and also to people that have the highest degrees, people who have masters or doctorate degrees. It can speak to everyone. It's amazing that the Bible can do that. There's no other book that is able to do that. And it's incredible because the Bible was the first book to say that the stars are beyond measure, beyond being able to be counted. It says God stretched forth the heavens in Isaiah into a limitless expanse. When he created the heavens, and he's still creating them. That's the amazing thing, that science has confirmed that the universe is continually expanding, and that the stars. I mean, when we go out and we look at the night sky, we think we can count the stars, but we only see a very, very, very small number. It's like a little thin stretch, and it's so expansive. It just goes on and on forever. They're like the sands of the sea. We can never count them. It's incredible that modern science, relatively recently, just in the last few hundred years, have discovered that the Bible was true when it said God stretched forth the heavens. So when you begin to look at the heavens and the earth, and you begin to understand that these concepts were in the Bible long before science discovered them. Science is just reconfirming what God allowed men to write because the Holy Spirit moved upon them, as it says in 2 Timothy. And it also says that the earth is hung upon nothing. The earth is hung upon nothing. If you look at when the Apollo missions went to the moon, and now when people orbit the earth is just there. It's just hanging in the sky. It's so amazing to me to think that the earth and the stars and everything that is out there is just hanging in space. And in Job, it says that poetically, it says that the earth is hung upon nothing. It literally hangs upon nothing. And Hebrews says that the things that are made of things that do not appear. The things that are made of things that do not appear. That everything that we see, every fiber, everything is created from tiny molecules, tiny atoms, tiny things that cannot be seen by the human eye. But yet, it says that they are created by things that are unseen. And what holds all of those things together? What holds all of those things together? It's an invisible energy. And I dare to say it's the Spirit of the living God, who from the very beginning had a plan and a purpose for the heavens and the earth and everything that was going to be placed in them. The God of purpose and of love is the God from the very beginning, from the very start. And this book doesn't tell us how the heavens go. Oh, well, it does, but it's more about telling us how to go to heaven. How do we get there? And it declares that there is a purpose and there is a way out of this troubled and bewildered and confusing world that we live in. That God is not a God of confusion. And he used in this from the very beginning, he wants to show us that. And that's why I'm so excited about getting into this wonderful book, because there's so much to learn. There's so much wonder in the book of Genesis. and in the whole Bible. But as I said, we have to get the foundation. We have to lay that firm foundation. Because if you have a foundation for your beliefs, and a lot of times people who are agnostics or atheists can say, don't tell me about sin and about, you know, redemption and forgiveness and all of those things that will challenge me and make me feel guilty. But if you begin to talk about Genesis, well, I've got you there. Not quite. Nope. Because Genesis looked at through the proper lens can challenge us and help us to grow. And we're going to be like seeds planted on a good soil. This foundation, we're going to be able to build. And this is going to be a good series. Like I said, I pray that you will stay with me through this. I don't know how long this series is going to last. I really don't. I haven't put a timeline on myself, and I'm not going to, because there's so much that we need to look at, and we need to understand where we started. And if we can begin to understand that, then we can begin to change some things. I really believe that, because if we can back up, keep backing up to before a time when there was so much confusion, so much hate, so much just craziness, and try to imagine a world from the beginning that God created to be perfect. God created this world to be a perfect world. And I'm going to say that there's a quote from an organic chemist, an organic chemist, I'm sorry. It says, the material world is designed to produce parallels and parables from the spiritual. The physical world that God created is designed to show us spiritual concept. That everything in the physical world is a direct parallel to things in the spirit. Wow. And this was said by an organic chemist. He said there is a spiritual as well as a physical reason for the pattern of creation. And if you try to divorce science from true religion, you'll never be able to have a real understanding of either. Wow. If you try to separate the physical world from the spiritual world, you can't. They're inextricably tied together. And everything that God created, He created for a plan and a purpose. Wow. Everything that He created. But we can't understand those plans and those purposes without first knowing the God who in the beginning created He says in Isaiah, he says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts." None of us could have thought of the heavens and the earth in the way that God did. None of us could have. And his ways are not our ways. They are so much higher, so much higher. And his thoughts are so much higher than our thoughts. And I'm getting ready to close for tonight. But I hope that I've created some excitement to be able to come back and join me as when I do the next installment of this series. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be this Sunday or next Thursday or next Sunday, but just be prepared and have an open heart and an open mind and be excited about this foundation and about the God who has created. And we're going to be, as we move forward in this series, we're going to go through the days of creation, and we're going to really look at the lovingness of God as in each day of the creation. I'm so excited, and I hope that you are too, because the God who created the heavens and the earth created you. He created me. And he created us with a plan and a purpose from the beginning. And so I hope that you've enjoyed this primer for tonight. I'm, like I said, I'm super excited about it. And I hope that you continue to join me. And let me know, what you think of this. I mean, because that helps me a lot. And I just bless you and thank you so much for joining me tonight. I bless everyone who couldn't join tonight live, but is going to watch the replay of this. And I pray that you will begin to get an excited knowledge about the God who creates, the God of creation from the very beginning. And join us Saturday morning for a rise. We've got the keys, and also Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. For Sunday Splendor. And I just want to give a shout out to Apostle Nathalie. I just pray that she is doing well this evening, and I just pray that the Lord will bless her with blessings of strength and peace tonight. I just thank her so much for allowing me to come on and begin to share this exciting series with you all. And I pray that she is doing well tonight. And if you've been blessed by this ministry, sow a seed. We're not asking for hundreds of dollars, but if the Lord puts something on your heart and you are truly blessed by this ministry, then sow a seed so that this ministry can continue on. It's not for me. It's so that the word can continue to go forth and to reach people who so desperately need it, because we're living in a day and a time where people are just so desperate to hear some good news for a change. And that's why I wanted to go back to the beginning, back to the start, before all of this world got into this crazy mixed up way. And I'm not saying that God isn't in control, because he always has been and he always will be. But we need to understand what God intended from the beginning. I pray that you've been blessed tonight. I thank you so much, and I look forward to installment number 2 of In the Beginning. Praise the Lord, and you be blessed. Good night.